Live from Midtown Manhattan, it's theCUBE. Covering Big Data New York City 2017. Brought to you by SiliconANGLE Media and its ecosystem sponsors.
Hello everyone, welcome to the special CUBE presentation here in New York City for Big Data NYC in conjunction with all the activity going on with Strata, Hadoop, Strata Data Conference right around the corner. This is the CUBE special annual event in New York City where we highlight all the trends, technology, experts, thought leaders, entrepreneurs here inside the CUBE. We have our 3 days of wall-to-wall coverage, evening event on Wednesday. I'm John Furrier, the co-host of the CUBE with Jim Kobielus, and Peter Burris will be here all week as well. Kicking off day one, Jim, the monster week of Big Data NYC, which now has turned into, essentially the big data industry is a huge industry, but now subsumed with a larger industry of AI, IoT, security, a lot of things that have just sucked up the big data world that used to be the Hadoop world, and it just kept on disrupting and creative destruction of the old guard data warehouse market, which now looks pale in comparison to the disruption going on right now.
The data warehouse market is very much vibrant and alive, as is the big data market, continuing to innovate. But the innovations, John, have moved up the stack to artificial intelligence and deep learning, as you've indicated, driving more of the edge applications in the new generation of mobile and smart appliances and things that are coming along like smart self-driving vehicles and so forth. So what we see is data professionals and developers are moving towards new frameworks like TensorFlow and so forth for development of the truly disruptive applications. But big data is the foundation.
I mean, the developers are the key. Obviously, open source is growing at an enormous rate. We're just at the Linux Foundation now have the Open Source Summit. They've kind of rebranded that. They're going to see explosion from code from 64 million lines of code to like billions of lines of code, exponential growth. But the bigger picture is that it's not just developers, it's the enterprises now who want hybrid cloud, they want cloud technology. So I want to get your reaction to a couple different threads. One is the notion of community-based software, which is open source, extending into the enterprise. We're seeing things like blockchain is hot right now, security, two emerging areas that are overlapping in with big data. You also have the classic data market, and then you got AI. So all these things kind of coming together, kind of just really putting at the center of all that, this core industry around community and software, AI in particular. So it's not just about machine learning anymore and data, it's a bigger picture. Yeah,
in terms of community development with open source, what we see in the AI arena, for example, with the up and coming, they're all open source tools. There's TensorFlow, there's Caffe, there's Theano and so forth. What we're seeing is not just the frameworks for developing AI that are important, but the entire ecosystem of community-based development of capabilities to automate the acquisition of training data, which is so critically important for tuning AI for its designated purpose, being doing predictions and abstractions. DevOps, I think what are coming into being are DevOps frameworks to span the entire life cycle of the creation and the training and deployment and iteration of AI. So what we're going to see is like at the last Spark Summit, there was a very interesting discussion from a Stanford researcher on new open source tools that they're developing out actually in Berkeley and in Stanford related to development of training data in a more automated fashion for these new challenges. So, the communities are evolving up the stack to address these requirements with fairly bleeding edge capabilities that will come in the next few years into the mainstream.
I had a chat with this big time CTO last night. He worked at some of the big web scale companies. I won't say the name, give it away, but basically he asked me a question about IoT, how real is it? And obviously it's hyped up. Big time though, but the issue in all this new markets like IoT and AI is the role of security, because a lot of enterprises are looking at the IoT, certainly on the industrial side, as the most relevant low-hanging fruit. But at the end of the day, the data modeling, as you're pointing out, becomes a critical thing. So connecting IoT devices to, say, an IP network sounds trivial in concept. But at the end of the day, the surface area for security is exposed. That's causing people to stop what they're doing, not deploying it as fast. So you're seeing kind of like people retrenching and replatforming at the core data centers, and then leveraging a lot of cloud, which is why Azure is hot. Microsoft Ignite event is pretty hot this week. Role of cloud, role of data and IoT. Is IoT kind of stalled in your mind, or is it exploding?
I wouldn't say it's stalled or that it's bloating, but IoT is definitely coming along as the new development focus for the more disruptive applications that can drive more intelligence directly to the endpoints, that can take varying degrees of automated action to achieve results, but also to very much drive decision support in real time to people on their mobiles or in whatever. So what I'm getting at is that the IoT is definitely a reality in the real world in terms of our lives. It's definitely a reality in terms of the next generation of data applications. But there's a lot of the back end in terms of readying algorithms and training data for deployment of really high quality IoT applications, edge applications, that hasn't come together yet in any coherent
So it's emerging.
It's
It's emerging. It's a lot more work to do. Okay, we're going to kick off day one. We got some great guests. We see Rob Beard in the house, Rob Thomas from IBM.
Rob Beard from Hortonworks.
Rob Beard from Hortonworks and Rob Thomas from IBM. I want to just bring up, Rob wrote a book just recently. He wrote Big Data Revolution, but he also wrote a new book called Every Company's a Tech Company. But he mentions, he kind of teases out this concept of a renaissance. So I want to get your thoughts on this. If we look at Strata, Hadoop, Strata Data, the O'Reilly conference, which has turned into like a marketing machine, right? And a lot of hype there. But as the community model grows up, you're starting to see a renaissance of real creative developers. You're starting to see not just open source, pure full stack developers doing all the heavy lifting, but real creative competition in a renaissance. That's really the key. You're seeing a lot more developer action, tons outside of what was classically called the data space. So the role of data and how it relates to the developer phenomenon that's going on right now.
It's the maker culture. And Rob, in fact, about a year or more ago, IBM at one of their events, they held a very maker-oriented event. I think they called it Datapalooza at one point. What's going on is it's more than just classic software developers are coming to the fore. When you're looking at IoT or edge applications, it's hardware developers, it's UX developers, it's developers and designers who are trying to change and drive data-driven applications into changing the very fabric of how things are done in the real world. What Peter Burris and we at Wikibon call programming the real world. So what that all involves is there's a new set of skill sets that are coming together to develop these applications. It's well beyond just simply software development. It's well beyond simply data science.
Programming the real world.
Maker culture.
Programming the real world is a great concept because you need real time, which comes back down to this. So I'm looking for this week from the guests we talked to, what their view is of the data market right now. Because if you want to get real time, you got to move from that batch world to the real-time world. I'm not saying batch is over, you still got to store data, and that's growing at an exponential rate as well. But real-time data, how do you use data in real time? How do the modelings work? How do you scale that? How do you take a DevOps culture to the data world is what I'm looking for. What are you looking for this week?
What I'm looking for this week, I'm looking for DevOps solutions or platforms or environments for teams of data scientists who are building and training and deploying and evaluating, iterating deep learning and machine learning and natural language processing applications in a continuous release pipeline and productionizing them. At Wikibon, we are going deeper in that whole notion of DevOps for data science. I mean, IBM's called it Insight Ops, others call it Data Ops. What we're seeing across the board is that more and more of our customers are focusing on how do we bring it all together so the maker culture.
Operationalizing it.
Operationalizing, so that the maker cultures that they have inside their value chain can come together and there's a standard patterned workflow of putting this stuff out and productionizing it. AI productionized in the real world.
So moving it from the proof of concept notion to actually just getting things done, putting it out in the network, and then bringing it to the masses with operational
like the good folks at IBM with Watson Data Platform on some levels is a DevOps for data science platform, but it's a collaborative environment. And so that's what I'm looking to see, and there's a lot of other solution providers who are going down that route.
I mean, to me, if people have the community traction, that is the new benchmark in my opinion. You heard it here on theCUBE. Community continues to scale. As you can start seeing it moving out of open source, you're seeing things like blockchain, you're seeing a decentralized internet now happening everywhere, not just distributed, but decentralized. When you have decentralization, community and software really shine. This is theCUBE here in New York City all week. Stay with us for wall-to-wall coverage through Thursday here in New York City for Big Data NYC in conjunction with Strata Data. This is theCUBE. We'll be back with more coverage after this short break.
Hi, I'm John Furrier, the co-founder of SiliconANGLE Media and co-host of theCUBE. I've been in the tech business since I was 19, first programming on mini computers in a large enterprise, and then worked at IBM and Hewlett-Packard. A total of 9 years in the enterprise, various jobs from programming, training, consulting, and ultimately as an executive salesperson, and then started my first company in 1997 and moved to Silicon Valley in 1999. I've been here ever since. I've always loved technology, and I love covering emerging technology. I was trained as a software developer and love business, and I love the impact of software and technology to business. To me, creating technology that starts a company and creates value and jobs is probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever been involved in. And I bring that energy to theCUBE because theCUBE is where all the ideas are and where the experts are, where the people are. And I think what's most exciting about theCUBE is that we get to talk to people who are making things happen. Entrepreneurs, CEO of companies, venture capitalists, people who are really on a day in and day out basis building great companies. In the technology business, there's just not a lot of real-time live TV coverage, and theCUBE is a non-linear TV operation. We do everything that the TV guys on cable don't do. We do longer interviews, we ask tougher questions, we ask sometimes some light questions. We talk about the person and what they feel about. It's not prompted and scripted, it's a conversation, it's authentic. And for shows that have theCUBE coverage, it makes the show buzz, it creates excitement. More importantly, it creates great content, great digital assets that can be shared instantaneously to the world. Over 31 million people have viewed theCUBE, and that is the result of great content, great conversations. And I'm so proud to be part of theCUBE with a great team. Hi, I'm John Furrier. Thanks for watching theCUBE.
Coming up on theCUBE, Jagan Sundar, CTO of WANDisco. Live CUBE coverage from Big Data New York City 2017 continues in a moment. Coming up on theCUBE, Donna Prylich, Chief Product Officer at Pentaho. Live CUBE coverage from Big Data New York City 2017 continues in a moment. Coming up on theCUBE, Amit Wali, Executive Vice President and Chief Product Officer at Informatica. Live CUBE coverage from Big Data New York City continues in a moment. Coming up on theCUBE, Prakash Nanduli, co-founder and CEO of Pexida. Live CUBE coverage from Big Data New York City continues in a moment.